Hey everybody, it's Mickey with the Why Project presented by the For Paul Foundation. Today's episode is Uncle Larry with Larry Doeling. He's a retired firefighter paramedic who spent 28 and a half years with Palm Beach Fire Rescue. He's on the special operations team, a captain since 2002. He also spent 3 years in the training division where he oversaw officer development programs of all ranks. He's a veteran of not only the Air Force, but the U.S. Army Reserves. He's a member of Tenacity, Saves Lives, and teaches with us all over the country. Welcome to the show, Larry. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great to be here. Thanks very much, Mickey, for having me. It's a great podcast you're doing here, and it's really an honor to be asked to be a part of it. And like you said, I did 28 and a half years with Palm Beach County. When I was 16, I got a buddy that had a volunteer ambulance company, so I did that for about a year and a half, so I'll take 30 years as a first responder. I worked in some great stations, some very busy stations with some great crews. I just can't say enough good about it. If it's for you, it's the best. If it's not for you, you got no business being here.
If you do it for the wrong reasons, it can be a rough job. You know, you're away from home, you're seeing things that you shouldn't see. But if it is your calling, it is definitely the most rewarding job in the world, in my opinion. I wanted to talk to you because we teach all over the place, and you know, we'll get into how we met, but you're a jack of all trades. You go leadership, behavioral health, command, you do a lot of stuff. I really want to touch on all of those things, and I couldn't wait to talk to you. But let's kick it off right away. Like, you do leadership, right? I met you in an officer development program. I don't know if you remember or not, but I was in Coral Springs Fire Department. I was a brand new training captain, and I came to watch you learn how to do an officer development program because I was trying to do one for my department.
Right.
That was the first time that we met. I don't even think I ever told you that.
I think this is the first time
I'm hearing. You had your Class A's on and your sword. You had your Class A's and your sword on.
Yep.
So first of all, let's talk about leadership. And then second of all, you got to tell everybody what's up with the sword.
The best job I ever had is the fire department. And then the best job within the fire department is being in a leadership position. And I always say it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. To actually walk into a fire station and to be in command and to be in a leadership role is it's fantastic. It's something a lot of people are. I don't want to diss other professions and that kind of stuff, but a lot of people never get that experience of having that leadership. And the other thing is, it's like the military or the police. You're leading a bunch of alpha males and females, which makes it even more rewarding. When you can walk into this room and you have these people's respect, if you've earned it, there's nothing better. It's incredible. Read a lot of books and stuff like that. And I've looked into leadership. I taught those academies. And one of the things that I read was that leadership is a choice. You know, just because someone hands you a badge or a bugle or some Army stripes or anything like that, it doesn't make you a leader. And you've had other people on the podcast that are not officially promoted, but they're leaders. They're informal leaders, and those people are just as important in the fire service as anybody else. General Eisenhower, he's a 5-star general in World War II. He had the best definition of leadership I've ever seen. He said basically that leadership is getting other people to do something that you want done because they want to do it. And that, I love that, because it's all about buy-in. You got to get the crews to buy in. And if you have to go pull rank and say, because I said so, and these bugles say so, or these Army stripes or this captain's badge says so, you lost. You've got to convince these people that it's something to do, and you got to have enough street cred. I was very lucky. Very early in my career, I got sent to busy stations. And then shortly after that, I got in with special operations, and big shout out to Captain Newport. Actually, he's Chief Newport. He's retired. Captain Hobbs, Chief Johnny Wright. These are the guys that I basically spent the first 10 years of my career with, and just awesome mentors. And I think that makes a big difference. Somebody told me once, you see an ugly kid in school and you follow them home, what are you going to find? Ugly parents. If you see somebody that's a soup sandwich on scene, a captain or a lieutenant, even a chief, follow them home. Follow them through their career. Who was their fire daddy? By that, I mean their mentors. Who was their fire mama? Who raised them in the fire service? And most of the time, you'll find out that those were weak leaders themselves. So they had no role models. So I think there's a lot to mentoring and that kind of thing. I think it's very important.
That's a great point, Larry. You know what? I never really thought about it, but if you look at childhood development, they say ages, 3 to 6, like that's your core. That's who you are. It's the same in the fire service, really. If you had bad mentors and you had bad leadership, you had that officer that came in and was like, "Oh, just do it because I told you."
Yeah.
And you never learned, yeah, I get it. That's cool.
If you're in a fire station where that captain found his favorite recliner, 2 months after he got the badge, that's the wrong place to be. You need to get the hell out of there. You need to go somewhere with people that know leadership, that know their job. They're tactically, technically proficient. And there's somebody you can look at and go, that's the guy. That's the girl I want to be like.
Yeah, I want to be like that. You make it about the people, right, Larry? I can already tell all of our stories that we've had teaching all over the country that you were definitely a battalion chief's heartache sometimes, which is funny because you teach leadership and everything, but you have a pretty good sense of humor. So
I got in trouble often. It's kind of, when you're retired, right, Mickey? So when you retire from our department, they give you your paper file. It's kind of funny because I took it home and I went through it, and then there's like, okay, there's an attaboy, there's a accommodation, there's another citation for this or that, and then there's a written reprimand, and then you just go through. It's basically like a 3 to 4 to 1 ratio of written reprimands and disciplinary actions to attaboys.
From all accounts, everybody I've talked to, they would go anywhere with you, which is leadership, right? Because if you're just going by yourself, you're just walking. You got to have everybody that will go with you, to your point.
Exactly. I think I've had some success. I don't know. You have to ask them. But pretty much everybody that's in my station has gone on to get promoted and they're well on their way to successful career. We have a program called a cadet program where the high school kids come in and they hang out in the fire station. I don't know how many, a dozen of these kids have gone through, and they all got big boy jobs. They're all very successful. One of them's a EMS captain down in Fort Lauderdale. The other ones are on the promotion list and stuff like that. They're all doing pretty well. So I think those kind of programs are very important, and I don't say I'm just, and I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I'm not being a pain in the ass to be a pain in the ass, but when something goes down, I'm not going to roll over for you. And that's where some conflict comes in.
Yeah.
So, and I'm okay with that. You got to have fun too.
The job is fun. I talked with Stephanie White the other day and she was like, "Oh, I didn't want to be an officer because I didn't want to stop having fun." Nah. I still had fun as a captain. I still had fun as a battalion chief. I mess with people.
Exactly.
It's tempered, as you go up the lengths, but
exactly. What's the old saying? What's funny when you're a firefighter is not so funny when you're a captain, but it's still pretty funny when you're a driver.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you can still have fun. I mean, it's all right. You just got to know the limits. You got to have boundaries. And it's important that this is the deal. I don't know if I heard it on your podcast or read it somewhere else, but when you assume a leadership position, it's like walking a dog. So you've got a dog on a leash. That dog is your crew. And if you let that leash out too far and that dog bites somebody, they're not going to go after the dog. They're going to go after you. You're the one that let the leash out too far. So you're constantly,
you're ultimately responsible for everything.
You're constantly walking that tightrope, to where you let out a little bit of leash and then you got to pull them back in. And then that's what the sword is kind of all about. The sword, I don't have the sword with me. I got a sword tattoo. It's a double-edged sword. Half of the sword is you and the things apply to you. But when you get promoted, you have to look at the other side of the sword, and that's everybody else. You have to take your entire crew into consideration. You are ultimately responsible for their behavior. You're responsible for the people that we're actually there to take care of too. So that's everybody else is on the other side of the sword. So when you take a class and you learn about behavioral health, you learn about leadership and all that kind of stuff, it applies to you, but it also applies to everybody else. And it's opening your eyes to that fact that it's not about you anymore. And that's basically what the sword's all about.
If everybody takes anything from this podcast, it's not about you once you move up. No. It's about everybody else. And
it's not.
Chief Freddie Kuntz told me when he gave me my lieutenant's badge, and I was, we call our ambulances rescues. So I was a rescue lieutenant. And he told me when he gave me my badge, listen, the further you go up the ladder, the less it's about you and the more it's about everybody else. He goes, if you can remember that, you're going to go far.
Yeah.
And people lose that,
It's incredibly important. And when you get into behavioral health and things like that and PTSD and that, you realize that in a leadership position, you to some degree have the ability to increase or decrease the effects of traumatic events and that kind of stuff. If you handle them properly, it will decrease the effects. If you basically try to normalize and validate some of the things that are going on in people's heads about what just happened, it will decrease the effects. If you blow it off or you start nitpicking someone's behavior on some of these calls, then you're going to amplify it. You're going to make it worse. You're going to turn that dial up. So again, it's not about you, man. You got to think about your words and your actions and your effects on the people around you.
I love it. And if you put the people first and you notice something, some anomaly in their behavior, you pull them to the side when you get back and you go, "Hey man, what's going on? You okay? What was that?"
Yeah.
It's simple conversations. Most of the time, simple conversations solve everything.
It's not rocket science. I mean, everything is a reflection of yourself. So when you go on a call, I don't have any kids. I've got a stepdaughter. So, I don't like the hurt kid calls or anything like that, but it doesn't hurt me as much. And then I had a driver that had 4 kids. It's not rocket science that if there's a kid call, who's going to be more affected? He will, of course, but some of the stuff you don't know. I had we basically, not to be too rough, but there's a lot of old people down in Florida, and a lot of times we don't have a successful outcome with a 911 call for an old person. And I had a younger guy, he had 3 or 4 years on, not a rookie. And he was very affected by the death of this elderly lady. And same thing, like you just said, you notice something, he's a little bit off, get him aside. What's going on, man? What's this all about? Something's wrong. And he basically confided that he was raised by his grandmother. And there were things in that apartment and about that woman that reminded him of his grandmother. So it triggered the hell out of him. This triggered this guy. It was close to him. It's a reflection of him, that call.
Yeah. And we never really know, right? Because we run on all these calls and you can go 30 years and never have a problem. And then you run into an old lady's house and boom, I kind of knew like it was the end of my career there, that I was ready to go. Was I had a bunch of kids that got shot in the middle of the night. And one of them looked just like one of Jen's cheerleaders. And they said, "Oh, this girl's from Broward County. She's up north." And I had to call my wife in the middle of the night. I'm like, "Hey, what's your cheerleader's name? Because I think she might be dead on my city street." It was bad, It was bad. And, I didn't ever share that with anybody, but I can see how those little triggers happen, And if you don't have an outlet, you don't have a therapist, you don't have a spouse that you can talk to, you don't have a friend that you can talk to, and you just hold it in, then you blevy. And that's what I say all the time. Yeah. Like, we have to have an outlet. We have to stop that stigma of, I'm just going to be the big bad fireman that holds everything in,
I say it's like a bad burrito, and you just have to process it and you have to get it behind you. And that's the way a lot of this stuff is. You cannot hold it in. It's not good for you. You can't bottle that stuff. You got to normalize and you got to validate these people's feelings. Another analogy I read the other day was you're driving your car and you're looking constantly in your rearview mirror. And you go to these events, you have these certain incidents, and you are hung up on them. And you're driving that car and you're staring at the rearview mirror. That completely affects your ability to function and drive that car properly. The windshield is huge. The rearview mirror is tiny, and there's a reason, as probably heard that before, but it makes sense. If you're constantly focused on what's behind you, you can't move forward properly. So you might need some help. There's no shame in that, and we all wear armor. And we all are protected. And some of this stuff, it's part of the job. There's a reason why rookie school is not easy. That's a reason why Army basic training is not easy. It gives you that armor, but the armor is like Swiss cheese, and everybody's armor's got a few holes in it. And once in a while, one gets through. So there's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes you human.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like, T-safe, right? This stuff isn't for everybody.
Nope.
So there's a reason why it's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep.
Um, which waters down when we start lowering our standards and hiring people that shouldn't be here. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yep.
But our armor gets chinked and holes happen, and you never know. You never know the one thing that could seem really silly to everybody else.
Yeah.
That sends you over the top.
Well, that's it. You don't even know
You never know
specifically what's going to trigger you. It might come as a little bit of surprise to you.
Yeah.
So you don't know.
Another one I remember, and I was pretty new in the fire service. I was not in Miramar yet. I started as a volunteer in Plantation and got hired as a medic. But we ran on this little guy and lady in Lauderdale West, and we picked him up like weekly. Like we saw these people every week, for the 3 years that I was there. And then I went in and he was a 7. And I had to tell the lady. And I went home and cried my eyes out. I'm this big bad fireman. I went home and cried my eyes out. And my wife's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I just see them all the time. Like they became almost like family."
Right. And
Crazy.
that's, I would never bid a station that responded to my house, for those kinds of reasons. I don't want to answer a 911 call at my own house. And like you just said, these people, you become very familiar. You get to know a lot of these frequent flyers and you become attached to them. And that's fine. That's normal. And then it's going to affect you more when they pass. That's okay.
A lot of stuff that can affect us in this department, in this service, but there's also a lot of fun, right? Like we talked about having fun, being a good leader, being about your people. One of the things I love that you do is the what would you do?
Yeah.
And you go through scenarios of, people doing outlandish stuff, which firemen can come up with some outlandish stuff. So talk about that, like the sausage fight in the produce aisle of Publix?
You gotta back up a little, Mickey. All it is it's a series of scenarios. The whole class is just scenarios. And I didn't make up any of them. They're all real. And some of them are very serious. And one of them actually has to do with that call you were just talking about with the old couple. And basically the scenario is, Mr. Smith has been married to Mrs. Smith for the last 50 years. And Mrs. Smith is sitting out here in the living room. Mr. Smith is in the bedroom and he has died. Tell Mrs. Smith that he's dead. And there's a way to do that. And that's part of the scenario. It's not fun. But there's other stuff, and I like to put up on the board your choices, and they're kind of football choices. So you can pass, punt, take a knee, or call a timeout. Pass means you're just going to give this off to somebody else. Give it to the EMS captain, give it to the training division, give it to the mechanics, whatever. Take a knee means it stays in house. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to deal with it, and this is the end of it. I'm taking responsibility at my level. Call a timeout. I'm going to call Mickey at my station next door. I've never seen this, Mickey. What do you think? And then the last one is punt. And this is such a hot potato. I'm going to follow the freaking book. I'm going to look up the policy. I'm going to kick this as far up the chain of command. And then I'm going to pick it up again and kick it even further if I have to. So with those things in mind, one of the funny ones is you're a battalion chief. You're sitting in your office minding your own business one day, and the grocery store manager comes in and he wants to talk to you. And he sits down and he shows you on his phone, he's got a video from his grocery store, because there's more cameras in a Publix grocery store per square foot than a casino in Las Vegas. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's got a video of one of your crews in the meat department chasing each other around with sausages. And it's just exactly what you think they're doing. All right. And then I end it with, all right, Chief, what are you going to do? And you have to decide what you're going to do with this kind of thing. You're going to throw these guys under the bus. You're going to give them an ass chewing. You're going to be paperwork. What are you going to do? And it seems to be a pretty effective thing. Guys seem to like it. And I can tell if I have them when I send them out for break and they're still talking about the scenarios. And like I said, the great part is I didn't make up any of this stuff. Number one, I didn't make up any of it. And then number two, it's not, don't vomit out the policy to me. I don't want to hear that. Okay. This is the middle of the night.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, man? Nobody's watching, and you're in a leadership position. You took the job. You got to come out of your office now, and you got to make a decision. So what are you going to do? There is no right or wrong answer. So
Yeah.
you have to decide. So I think it's been an effective little class. Guys seem to like it. So anyway, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. What Stephanie said was experience is not how many times have you pulled a hose? How many times have you done this? How many times have you had somebody walk in your office and say something that you're like, I'm going to take a deep breath and figure out how to deal with this right now. I love the analogy of punt, pass, kick. That's
Yeah.
great. I love that. I wish that I had learned that before
Yeah.
I retired, because I definitely did a lot of those things, but you have to put the person first, right? So the first thing you want to know in a situation like that is like, okay, I'm going to apologize to the person. I'm going to talk to my people. They're going to apologize to you. We'll follow up with you and let you know that I talked to them. And then I'm going to go in and smack their heads and be like, what the hell were you thinking, guys? You know what I mean? But is there more to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. What's going on? All right. What's going on? Sometimes
What's
that's the
going
answer in
on?
a lot of these. What's going on? Why are
on?
you doing this? That's weird.
Most of the time they're like, yeah, chief, you know what? We messed up or whatever. If you just put them first and try and find out like what's going on, but newer officers, they tend to just jump, I'm going to discipline you and quote the policy. I watch these people test, and they're studying for their test, and they're like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print policy 9 out, and I'm going to go over it with you, and then I'm going to email it to you, and I'm going to follow up with you and make sure you understand policy number 9. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
If you're going to write somebody up, you definitely want to print the policy, but you want to find out what the F is going on, and part of the reason I do this too is you think about it. I have not talked to anybody yet who has a different answer to this. How many guys do you know that have augured in, have ruined their careers, have lost bugles, have gotten in trouble? And generally it's not because of some deficiency in some sort of technical area or on a call. It's because of stupid stuff like this, that they were allowing these kind of things to happen in their station, or they were part of it. Guys, they didn't have the leash tight enough when it had to be tight. I'm kind of known for a thing. You have to establish boundaries. You can have fun, but you have to work within these boundaries. And I'm kind of known for when things start going a little bit into the weeds, I just said very, very calmly, steady. And the guys knew that's it. You cannot go any further down that road. We're done. And that's all it takes once you establish that kind of stuff. Just give them a steady, and they know. So leadership is not complicated. General McCaffrey, I think was his name. He was commander of troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said, it's not complicated. Leadership isn't complicated. It's hard. It's actually hard to do the right thing in the middle of the night. I'm reading a book now. It's called Leadership in Dangerous Situations. And it's actually holding up my phone right now. I'm looking at it. The first chapter is all about character and the effect of character on leadership and decision making. And a lot of these scenarios are character or lack thereof character. And a lot of that's what I talked about in previous podcasts. It's having difficult conversations. You got to come out of your office, man, and you got to put a boot in somebody's rear end. You got to put a stop to stuff. You cannot have these kind of things happening. And we have a lot of leeway in the fire service, but if you allow your station to be run like a frat house, it's going to blow up in somebody's face eventually, and it's going to be trouble. So.
Yeah. And no matter how good you are. So 2 things. 1, leadership is work.
Yeah.
Right? To be an officer is work. You have to be willing to come out of your office and have difficult conversations and say, no, we don't do that here. You also have to be willing to come out of your office, put your arm around somebody and be like, hey, are you okay? Come here. Let's talk. All of those things are work that people they underestimate being a good captain, being a good chief. Those things are work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, just like anything else, you're not going to be a good leader. You watch these people and they don't want to put in the work, or they avoid it. They avoid those difficult conversations, and they avoid those things, and they can be the best tactician in the world, but they're not good officers.
Yeah.
To your point,
it takes work. It takes conscious effort. In the chaplaincy, if you take a chaplain class, they'll talk about the ministry of presence. So if there's an event, the chaplain or the reverend will just show up at somebody's house and you'll just be there. You'll have a presence. And I think there's a leadership of presence. If you're the type of officer who just goes in his office and closes the door and works on his side job or takes a nap, forget it. You've lost them. You have to be available. I never close my office door unless I was having a consultation with the person and a witness. That's the only time it's closed. The rest of the time it's open, and I would spend a lot of time. I didn't sit in a recliner, which is, there's nothing wrong if you want to sit in a recliner and you're a chief or a captain or something like that. I'm just saying I never did. You've got to be there. You have to have some presence. You have to be accessible. You know.
When I was a captain at 19, my guys were like, "Hey, Cap, you gonna?" Yeah, I mean, we run all night, so
Yeah.
they're like, "Cap, you gonna take a nap this afternoon?" I go, "I might." Why? And they're like, "Because you're an ass at night if you don't get a nap." I'm like, "I guess I'm gonna go take a nap then."
Got to have a safety nap. That's important.
I never was much of a recliner guy either, but you know, when the crew is watching a movie or doing something, and they're like, "Chief, come sit," Cap, come sit, then I would sit because that's the bonding time. That's very important. You know,
when you're invited, you have to go. You can't turn them down. Or we had a picnic table. You know, one of my stations, we had a picnic table out in the bay, and you have cigar time after dinner. You know, that's important. Stuff like that's important. Your family bonding time. That's how you do team building and that kind of stuff. You know, there's a lot to it. Your leadership is not one or two or three grand things you're going to do, you know, throughout in the year. It's 1,000 little things you do every day, setting the example and stuff like that, and being cognizant of being empathetic and how is what I'm doing now look, and is what I'm saying, is what I'm telling these people, is that lining up with what they're seeing me do, what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And it's important, you know, and basically have your finger on your own pulse and their pulse. Understand what's going on. Yeah. It's the best job in the world.
I love that. And that's lost. It's lost in a lot of people there because you ever see the window and the mirror?
No.
So the window in the mirror is I'm looking in a mirror and I'm like, I'm the best. And everybody's looking through the window like that guy's a butthead. You know, what people see through the window and what you see in the mirror have to match. They have to match.
Right.
You know, because otherwise you're walking around going, I'm Chief Mickey, I'm the best. Yeah. And everybody's like, man, I would never listen to anything that guy says.
Yeah, exactly. When I was teaching the Leadership Academy, the lieutenants, I gave them, and the captains, I had poker chips made, and I had 3 poker chips. And one is who you think you are. The other poker chip is who everybody else thinks you are. And then the third one is who you really are. And you hold them together, you know, like was it a Venn diagram where they overlap? And then hopefully your poker chips are lined up, stacked on top of each other. But most of us, you know, and I'd wing them across the room. Some of you guys, they're all over the place. They're not even close. So it's the same kind of thing to illustrate that point. So it's important. You've got to listen to yourself. You know, how do I sound?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do I sound? And when I say something, is it legitimate? So we retired in 2019, right? We've been retired for about 6 years.
Yep.
So just so everybody knows, you teach leadership, you teach command, you are a mental health counselor. I saw you marry somebody the other day, right?
Yep.
I'm a minister or just?
I am with the Church of the Dude. I got it online for $40. I spent the extra $20 and I can do exorcisms too. So in Florida, you just need a notary public. So I've got that, and I've done about a dozen weddings or so. I just did one up, you know, here the other day. So it's an honor to be asked to do that kind of thing. So yeah, and I've got
and you have a daughter who's a police officer. She didn't pick up the right application. So
like I said, I failed as a parent. She's a sergeant with the PD, so I couldn't be prouder. She's amazing. She's tougher than me, tougher than I'll ever be.
Yeah.
And then I got
So how is retirement? Because I just retired. How is retirement, Larry? Like, you're obviously still busy. I think I'm busier now than I was before. You feel like that sometimes?
A little bit. I've got some projects going on, like I got a 69 Firebird. I've got a little cottage I'm building, stuff like that. I'm, you know, swinging the hammer and that kind of thing. Somebody told me this a long time ago. He says, you cannot, you know, cops, firemen, military, you cannot leave these professions. You have to go to something else. And I think it's important. If you think you're going to go play golf every day, forget it. You're going to be down in a half a handle of vodka every day and wondering what happened to your life. You go to school and you get a job, as an accountant. You get a job as a lawyer, and you get a job as an engineer. When you go to basic training and you go to fire academy and police academy, you become a firefighter. You become a soldier. It's a part of you. So part of what those academies do is they take you from the civilian world into that career field, military, police, fire. When you retire, you can't really put both feet back into the civilian world. It becomes so much a part of your identity, and that it's hard to transition completely. And a lot of guys have a hard time with that. And I mean, just as an example, I mean, you're battalion chief, pretty big, busy department. I'm sure you've been on calls where you got 20 guys. You tell them to do something and they do it. I've been on, MCI car accidents and stuff like that. We had both helicopters going. In the middle of the night, I shut down a major thoroughfare, major road, and cops are, doing what I tell them. I got 20 alpha males and females, and I tell them to do something, they do it. It's awesome. And then I come home and I'm retired, and my dog over here doesn't even listen to me. It's called there's an actual psychological term. It's called an adjustment disorder. So you have trouble adjusting, and that's up to you though. And a lot of this is your expectations. And I think expectations are very important at the beginning of your career and throughout your career and at the end of your career. So if you have expectations when you're a rookie that you're going to save everybody, you go to medic school, you're going to save everybody. Those are unrealistic expectations. The tones are going to go off a lot of times, and you're beat before you even get in the truck. You get in that fire engine and you're beat. That place is going to burn to the ground before you even turn a wheel. And then I think you need to have realistic expectations about retirement. You just went from being the man to being a man, and you got to realize that that's gone. You're going to walk into a fire station. I just did it a couple of weeks ago. I went into my old fire station. There's 6 guys there. I recognized one of them, and he was a cadet on B shift. Great guy, Monet. He's the captain now, Captain Monet. And I knew him when he was a friggin' rookie cadet, and none of those other guys knew me, and that's fine. They don't have to. I'm completely good with that. I walked into that station with expectations I wouldn't know anybody. So the nice part was they did the old guy a solid, and they made a pot of coffee, and they sat there with me for an hour, and we talked. It was pretty good. But again, you got to normalize and validate these experiences. You got to be ready for these things. You have to have realistic expectations of your retirement. You are not Chief Mickey anymore, brother. It's gone, and it's never coming back.
And it's from one day to the next.
Yeah,
it's from one day to the next. One day, I'm running an MCI in Miramar Parkway, and then the next day, my dog's not listening to me, and my wife's telling me what to do around the house. I'm like, what happened?
But it's okay, man.
The expectations thing, Larry, because when you first become an officer, I tell everybody, like, sit down and have the expectations talk, and don't try and change. They're already working as a crew for 5 years together. You're going to come in and tell them, I want this, I want that. It's not going to work. Find out their expectations of you,
exactly,
and then give them what your expectations are, and then we'll meet in the middle and we'll learn how to do it together. That's putting the people first and having good conversations and stuff like that.
You've got to set your expectations. So another thing real quick on expectations, when I was a captain, when I had somebody coming into my station, especially if they were a rookie, I had a sheet. It was a 1-page sheet, and it had a bunch of bullet comments on it. It had my phone number, the station phone number, and that kind of stuff. And I'd put today's date at the top. And I would call them in the office after the morning meeting, and I'd sit there they're usually on the rescue. I would sit there with the lieutenant. We have lieutenants on our rescues. Our rescues are big ambulances. And then I was on the fire engine, and I was in charge of the station. But I would slide that across to them. I'd give them a copy, and I'd say, this is how I told them, I don't care where you've been, what other departments you worked for. This is how things work here at our station. This is how things work here at Station 36. This is how things work in this battalion. This is what you're going to do today. And it was pretty basic stuff. You're going to wear all of your PPE all the time on every call. And I don't care if we go to a fire alarm at the same place 12 times. You're going to wear your gear 12 times. And it just went down the list. And it goes, and then at the end, you go, okay, what are your expectations of me and this crew today? Do you have anything? Do you have a rookie book you have to work on? Do you have, because the worst thing, I'm sure you guys have rookie books and that kind of stuff. Some rookie comes to you
Yeah.
at like after dinner at 6, 8 o'clock at night, like, oh, I got this stuff I got to do. Like, no, you should have told me that at 8 o'clock this morning, knucklehead. But that gives them an opportunity to, this is what I want to get done. This is what I want to work on, that kind of thing. So it seems to work. And guys still remember that coming to my station and being given expectations. People appreciate that kind of stuff. I'm not on your ass, but I'm just telling you, this is how things work here. Yeah. And that's another thing too.
Right.
I don't know what it's like in your department, but we would not tolerate that, that harassment, that rookie harassment bullshit. That is a no-go. We do not do that stuff. I hated it when it was done to me when I was a rookie, and I hate seeing it done to other people. And they just had one down South Florida. A bunch of guys are getting fired because they were doing some stupid stuff, to a rookie. And I got a buddy, Kevin Corman, and he said it's all about roles. He had a theater background or something, I don't know. And he said you need to know three things. It's like being in a play. You need to wear the right costume. That's your PPE and all that stuff. You need to show up on cue. That means get your ass on the truck, and get there in a timely manner. And then number three, you need to know your lines, which means you need to know your SOGs and your protocols. And I always remembered that. I thought that was a good way to put it. It's just like being in a play. And part of that too, though, transferring over onto the harassment thing and the rookies is I said, we're not going to do that harassment thing here. We're not going to do anything dumb, but everybody here has a role. My role is the captain here, and I will stay in my role. And my role is to teach you and to mentor you and to make sure that you get done what you need to do. Your role is a rookie. And here's the things that a rookie does. You do the dishes, you clean, you wash the trucks, you inspect everything that you're told to do, and stick with your role. And that's another thing, Mickey, if you notice, when guys auger in, a lot of it goes back to that root cause of not sticking with their role, especially as a captain or lieutenant or a battalion chief. You try to be one of the boys or that kind of stuff, you get in trouble.
Expectations are huge. Modeling, mentoring, all of the things you said are big, And then going back to putting on your PPE. So are you the captain that's telling people, when you come to my house, you're going to wear your gear on every call, but you're in your pants and nothing else? Or are you wearing the same thing they're wearing? Because I see that,
Yeah. You're going to check your truck. You're going to check your air pack. You're not going to check my air pack. I will check my air pack. I will wear gear. If we had more time, I'd tell you about the best fire I was ever on with Joey Kokasis and Chris Oglechaney. It started out going to a fire alarm, and it ended up at another location we saw on the way there, a column of smoke off, about another few degrees in the other direction. And we got there and it was a triplex on fire. But I knew Joey had all his gear on. I had all my gear on. We were ready to go. And we were en route in our truck to a different zone to a fire alarm, a bullshit fire alarm, man. What it's like in your department, but I can see my second due in the rearview mirror probably 80% of the time. Yeah. I mean, these guys are up your rear end, bro. And if you're not ready, you're going to eat your lunch right there, and they'll laugh about it.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Clark, my best buddy in the whole world, great guy. It was a fire alarm in his zone, and I beat him there to his zone, and it was awesome. And but the moral of the story is that you wear your gear all the time, every time, and everybody's ready to go. And you just never know. You never know. That is one of the things that I miss about the job, and probably you too. And I tell guys, when the morning, when you show up and you put your gear on that truck and you look at that speaker up on the ceiling, you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen for the next 24 hours. I've ended up from Palm Beach County down in Miami, with a strike force on a shift, and you never know where you're going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to meet. It's awesome. But you got to be prepared as best as you can be. You can't be prepared for everything. My dad just say, just enough to be dangerous. Well, I think in this job,
Yeah.
you need to know just enough to be safe about a heck of a lot of things, you know. So it's a weird
Yeah.
job, that they call the police department when there's a crime being committed or a crime was just committed. And who do they call for everything else? Us. And
Yeah.
the public has an expectation. You're in people's worst day business. You're in cheating. You're literally in the cheating death business. You're in the cheating disaster business. And you got grown men that call 911 because they have run out of options, and you are it. And you need to show up there and fix these things. Part of the really most rewarding and most exciting part about the job is to know that pretty much I got the crew, I got the equipment, I've got the knowledge, skills, and ability based on a platform of training, education, experience, that whatever comes through that speaker, we're going to handle it, man. It's going to be awesome. Yeah.
And the
But,
job is a lot more fun when you're good at it, right? Two
oh,
things. The
yeah.
job's a lot more fun when you guys are good. When you have that crew that you just know we can knock the boots off of whatever comes our way, that job is a lot more fun. Two is the public doesn't know whether you're a 30-year veteran or a brand new kid. All they see is firefighter when you come off that rig. They see your t-shirt and they say that this person is here to help. So if you are that new person, or you are that senior person that is a mouch, half man, half couch, you have to keep that in mind. Like the public is looking at you like, hey, we want a college level athlete or pro level athlete that is a brain surgeon and all of these things coming off that truck. Like they're looking at you to solve their worst day of their life. And we have to keep that in mind and be ready. We didn't even get to talk about command. So we'll have to do a second one, Larry, because I can talk to you all day for sure. But firefighters have squirrel brains. This is the Why Project 911 presented by the For Paul Foundation. And I ask everybody, what's a why that I can take away from you? So you do so many things and like I said, I could talk to you all day, but what's a why I can take away from you, Larry?
Like I think we said that it's the best job in the world, and why wouldn't you want to be good at it? It is a helping profession. It is an honor to have these jobs and to basically be at the end of a 911 call. My buddy Joe Nelson says his first day on the job, he's driving around the rescue truck, and he realizes someone's going to call 911 today, and they're going to get me. It's kind of scary, but it's a lot of responsibility, and you want to take as many classes as you can. You want to be as good at this as you can. It's an important job. It's a fun job, and it honestly, this job has allowed me to become the kind of man that I've always wanted to be. And what can you say about a career like that?
It's funny because going back to somebody's going to call 911 and we're going to show up. It was me and Frank Verkland after dinner. We were sitting outside. He's the other battalion chief. We're sitting outside, and somebody called us. I don't remember who. And they were like, I can't believe you two knuckleheads are running the city. I'm like, me and Frank Verkland are in charge of the whole city today. I'm like, that's scary.
Yeah. Well, you grow into it too.
Yeah,
I mean, you change quite a bit. This is a career that changes you, and you've got to be ready for that change.
Yeah.
I am a completely different person, I like to think, than when I started.
When you take that officer role, when you're responsible for other people and you're ultimately responsible, like the guy with walking his dog, when you take that to heart and you grow from that. I grew up a lot, and I was an angry young kid when I became a lieutenant, and then I moved my way up the ladder, and I grew a lot from those experiences. Just knowing when you make lieutenant, I had 2 other people that I was responsible for. I made captain, I had 9, 6, 12 other people I was responsible. I made battalion chief, I had the whole shift was my responsibility. And you grow up a lot when you do that, when you do it the right way and take it to heart. Yeah,
it's it's a great career, and I think I was a bit of a handful. My Captain Newport, now retired chief, said that we're a spirited crew was the way he put it. But basically, it was a nice way of saying we're a pain in the ass. But the other side of that, though, the other
Yeah.
side of that sword is when you get promoted. I was just talking to my buddy Dave Gillespie in Petersburg up in Canada, and I stopped by there, and he was doing some training and stuff like that. And one of the crews got off the truck, and there was a guy. He pointed to him and said, "That guy's a pain in the ass." And Dave was a little bit like wanted to distance himself from the guy. I go, I'll take that guy right now because I know exactly how to handle that dude. That guy, I'll get that guy to jump through fire, because I was that guy and I know how that guy responds.
Yeah.
And you just treat him with respect and you talk to him like a man. And you might be the first guy that's ever done that. But there's something, his, like you were talking about your fire mama, your fire daddy, somewhere in his past, in his childhood, there's something in there that makes him resent authority. But that guy's mine because I was that guy.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy.
And you know what, Uncle Larry, honestly, those pains in the butts oftentimes are the best firefighters, right? They're the people that when the fire is happening and you need something done, that you're going to rely on and be like, okay, go get this done.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to put up with all of this and treat you like a person and talk to you like a man, because when I need you, I need you. It's time to go to work. I need you. And I know you're good,
If you handle
and then
them right,
there's sometimes you're just pain in the butts.
Yeah, but if you handle them right, that pain in the butt stuff directed at you goes away because they know that you understand them and that kind of stuff. And those guys, you look around throughout my career, I've seen those guys, and when they get promoted, they change. Okay. And they are actually some of the best officers. It's weird to see how that stuff comes around, goes around, stuff like that. But it's awesome. It's good to see. Yeah. Just don't be threatened.
But you know what? To your point before we finish, you see those people that they get promoted and they turn up to be good officers, right?
Yeah.
They probably still have a problem with authority because, I had a problem with authority my whole career.
Hell yeah.
I do. I won't lie. That's why I didn't go upstairs, right?
Absolutely.
But you can't be that person that sleeps all day, never puts their gear on, never does this, doesn't bring the equipment into. They bring a glucometer and a life pack into the house instead of all the equipment. You can't be that person. They get promoted and expect these things. You have to kind of model that behavior all the way up. Even if you were a pain in the butt, you had to be the first one to the truck. You had to be there in the morning. You can't get promoted and put a gold badge on and think all of a sudden now everybody's going to listen to me if you never did those things. Don't you think?
You got to be good at the job. That's what it comes down to too. I mean, you can be a pain in the ass at the station, but when the tones go off, you've got to be a professional. You have to know your job, knowledge, skills, and ability based on a platform of training, education, experience. It's the only way to do it. And so when you retire, you'll have a bunch of written reprimands. No big deal. I've been in trouble before.
It's less like your whole career, Larry. There's some good, some bad, right?
Yeah.
And you walk away and you look back and you go, okay, it was mostly good. Cool.
Yeah. You need a 3 to 5 to 1 attaboy to oh shits. So that's all right. We're good.
You have any final thoughts for me? It was an honor to have you on, brother. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's a blast. I love what you're doing here, man. I love the range of guests that you have from all over the place, from fire department rookies to senior chiefs and then police and dispatchers. I love dispatchers. They're awesome. You're doing great here, man. I'm very proud of you, Mickey. Good job.
Thank you very much, man. I'm honored to call you my friend. So thanks for coming on, brother. Everybody have a great day.